Welcome to Module 2. In Module 1, we moved from a broad interest toward an advocacy framing statement. This module asks a different question. What do we need to know before we choose a strategy? We don't need endless information. The goal is to build evidence that is credible enough to use publicly and specific enough to guide action. By the end of this module, we'll have a shared research process. First, we'll phase research so we don't get stuck in permanent information gathering mode. Second, we'll verify claims before using them publicly. Third, we'll look for strategic insight, the facts, dates, institutions, and community priorities that can help us decide what to do next. The biggest trap in early advocacy work is treating research as a comfort activity. We can always find one more article, one more statistic, and one more background source. This module keeps research attached to strategy. We need to know what is true. We need to know how defensible those claims are. And we need to know what evidence suggests we can actually do. Phase 1 is orientation. It is the honest beginning. We are learning the vocabulary, the history, the level of government or institution involved, and the people or communities affected. The most important habit here is humility. If there are disagreements or missing voices, write them down instead of smoothing them over. Phase 2 is verification. A claim might be memorable and still not be solid enough to use. We should trace statistics back to the original source, record dates and methods, and distinguish a fact from an estimate or interpretation. Advocacy work is more persuasive when it is honest about scope and limitations. Phase 3 is where research becomes advocacy strategy. We should identify the decision being influenced, the person or the institution with authority, the timing, the existing advocacy ecosystem, and the opening you in a Boulder could use. A strategic insight is not just an interesting fact. It is a fact that changes what we choose to do. The source log is the workhorse of this module. It should be filled in while researching. The 2 example rows show how the log works. It captures the claim, the original source, the data, the scope, the limitation, and how the claim might be used. This keeps accuracy attached to strategy. For our reoccurring example, the point is to show how research questions change by phase. Orientation clarifies what we are talking about. Verification checks the accuracy of the claims. Strategic research asks who can act, when they can act, and what are we asking constituents or decision makers to do. This slide models the difference between a fact and a strategic insight. The fact is that assessed contributions are dues. The insight is that this changes the tone of the advocacy message. We can talk not only about generosity, but also about reliability, obligation, influence, and constructive engagement. That insight can change the communication strategy and the call to action. Citations are not a formality. They are part of ethical advocacy. We should cite claims that carry weight, statistics, legal claims, policy descriptions, quotes, and institutional facts. They should also keep scope and limitations visible. And any project involving legislation or public representation of UNA Boulder should go through an organizational review process before publication or public action. This module closes with a few questions to reflect on about your own personal project. Is there a source or fact that has really influenced how you understand the issue? Where might you be stuck in information paralysis versus deciding what matters most? What information do you need to make a strategic decision? Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again in Module 3, where we'll dive in more on what it means to tell a story from a UN lens.